Well, to change the business, you need to understand business. So it's always good to have a different job that you've learnt about business generally before getting involved in business. And that's why it's Tony D'Angelo, Michael Hamflett. Look, people bloody love nostalgia, don't they? So just left. People love nostalgia, don't they? They bring back your Star Wars, your Ghostbusters, your Twin Peaks. They love bringing stuff back. So I'm saying Tony D'Angelo is going to be the start of a wave of occupational gimmicks returning to mainstream wrestling. He's a mafia boss, Hamflett. He's the Heritage Cup champion at time we record, and hopefully time this goes out. Never drop it, in my opinion. Former tag team champion, should have been the NXT champion. Ilya Dragunov, if you're going to go to the main roster, you might as well drop the belt to him instead of Trick Williams. Trick Williams is awesome, obviously. But yeah, I love Tony D'Angelo. I love the family. We've got obviously a close personal relationship with Stax. And from what I've heard, from what Tony's doing behind the scenes, I think he's brilliant. I love him. I just think, like, since Triple H invented factions, it just makes sense that you're going to bring a group of people up to the main roster as a unit. I don't know what that's going to look like when the family goes up there, but I have a quiet confidence that it might actually work. I love Tony D. Give him all the gold and let him run the business for me.
I feel as though it might be a recurring theme of these videos that as wrestling fans we are spoiled, as wrestling fans we are Patrick Stewart in extras, we've seen everything. There is no genre that has not just been explored across social media channels, across all the sort of deepest, darkest corners of the pro wrestling world, but in fact on mainstream television through mostly like AEW's incredible fan service since launch in 2019, but also like WWE's lifting of some of that, not to mention the various ways in which Triple H tried to pick up an entire scene and call it NXT in the late 2010s. Every single ceiling feels like it's been reached in pro wrestling, apart from the one that Javon Evans can reach that nobody else can, and not just because of how awesome that springboard is. The proof is already out there for Javon Evans' appeal. It is something in 2024 to get eyes on NXT, but less of a thing because that brand actually has momentum. It actually feels like it's connecting once again. It is quite another to get people to tune into NXT Level Up. WWE sometimes don't even want you to watch NXT Level Up. I've seen some of the experiments that get broadcast on there. It is the developmental for the developmental. It is okay for that hour of television to be full of wrestlers that are mostly getting their tryouts for the tryouts. Javon Evans was never that from the second he showed up. His matches were cutting through on social media more than the main NXT show, and in some cases more than the mid-card of a SmackDown or Raw. And it wasn't just that he could fly, it was the way in which we did it. There is always that one aerial wrestler that makes you feel like the impossible has been made possible. When I was younger, I think post takeover of WCW, it was AJ Styles in TNA. Will Ospreay and Ricochet in New Japan for the first time felt like it changed the world, and then the two of them in their own ways, and Ospreay especially has continued to do that. The bar always gets raised in wrestling, but every generation we always foolishly say, well, it can't go any higher. This generation feels like it was going to be the hardest one, and Javon Evans already feels like he's done that. It doesn't necessarily mean just because right now he is this incredible raw talent with the ability to seemingly just hang in the air 2 or 3 seconds longer than any wrestler you've ever seen before, that he will necessarily make it to the top of the industry, because again, it's harder than ever to change it when so much has already been done. But I think the number one thing you can do as a pro wrestler when everybody can have absolutely everything is actually get people to watch you. He is a destination pro wrestler, kind of no matter where he is. This isn't a brand thing, this isn't a style thing, it's a you got to watch Javon Evans thing. To have that kind of appeal in 2024 feels like the rarest form of wrestling appeal there is, and he's already got it. A prodigy and a star in the making.
So which wrestler do I think is going to change the business going forward? Well, it's quite hard to change this business right now. I feel like we've seen everything, haven't we? We've literally seen everything twice over. So in order to change the business, you really have to go down the what's old is new kind of route. And for me, what's old is new in NXT is a certain man called Obafemi. That was not meant to rhyme, but here we are. So Obafemi, if you don't know, know already, and if you don't, seriously, what are you doing with your life? Go and check out this guy. He's a powerhouse. He is a monster, a big old meaty man that can just throw people around like they're ragdolls, really. Like, he throws grown men around like they're nothing. Like, to quote Adam Nicholas, like they are empty tracksuits. It is insane what this man can do. Like, the displays of power, just the sheer creativity of the power as well. Like, some of the moves he pulls off, you're like, I did not know humans could do these things. He's insane. He's a freak of nature. So I feel when he eventually does end up on the main roster, because it's going to happen, he's probably going to be a world champion at some point as well, because the guy just screams world champion. He's going to usher in a new era of the big meaty men, and we're just going to have big meaty clashes everywhere instead of all these technical, like, the showcases, which are fine. Like, yeah, loads of grappling, that kind of stuff. No, I don't need that anymore. I need big meaty men doing massive double suplexes on other humans and doing backflips off the top rope. I need all this. I need more of this, and I feel like Obafemi could be the poster boy of that going forward. The guy can just, like, do anything. He can literally, I've seen him pick people up and throw them like 300 yards through the air. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen him, he's thrown people out of buildings. I believe this man could lift my entire house if he just felt like it. If he walked up to this house one day and went, you know what, that house, I'd like to move it, I'm gonna move it. He could. He's that kind of guy. So he is the guy that I think will change this business. I think he will make meat the new, well, I think he'll put meat back on the menu within wrestling. I think that's what he will do. He will make it the in thing, and I think he's going to be an absolute megastar. Watch Obafemi, watch this space. This guy is not to be messed with.
I think that if you look at the current direction of WWE Monday Night Raw as we sit and record this, the new breakthrough megastar is an explosive tour de force called Bron Breakker. Now, Bron Breakker is fantastic, right? Bron Breakker understands the assignment when doing a spear. He looks like he's trying to bend someone over backwards at the hips. He's not doing like a running tackle. It's like he's trying to make you go into that shape, right? And it's just funny that fans are really connecting with Bron Breakker. And if you look at the wider philosophical shift in WWE recruitment, the NIL program, they very much want to recruit and shape and mold these unbelievable athletes. We've seen it with the gymnasts in the NXT women's division. So they want to prioritize really great athletes and then sort of hopefully turn them into professional wrestlers or sports entertainers or whatever. And I think that is the future. If you look at the women's division in particular, that seems to be working. It's certainly working with Bron Breakker. And I think despite all the names they may get recruit from this collegiate sort of circuit, I think Julius Creed's the one. Yeah. I've said for a long time, Julius Creed has got this sort of nice appeal, this sort of incredible babyface work, and quite frankly, like, I mean, a dude who can do a one-armed powerbomb, that's unbelievable. And if you look at broader, wider trends in pro wrestling and what's working and what isn't, great matches that were sold as great matches, that idea is dying if it's not dead completely. It's just excess. We've seen so many of them, and if you look at the amount of great wrestling matches that AEW promotes and their ticket sales, I mean, that's trending downwards on this imaginary graph that I've just created. Catchphrases and entrances are in, yeet, yeah, etc. So there's been a paradigm shift. I'm trying to guess the next one, and truly, if you look at Bron Breakker and Julius Creed, I think intense meatheads doing explosive shorter matches is probably it, because the catchphrase era won't last forever. We've been inundated with great matches, so you want to basically get a different kind of astonishment at what physically athletes can do, and the better the athlete, the more chance you've got. A guy who can do a one-armed powerbomb like Julius Creed could be the way forward. I mean, it just speaks to this primal enjoyment people have of pro wrestling when you watch a Creed or a Breakker. Like, your jaw unhinges and you just do that raw when you see it. Nothing intense jock meatheads recruited from the NIL program might actually do something with professional wrestling.
Yes.
Jacob Fatu is someone I'm going to say is going to change the business for the simple fact that he is going to become a lot of people's favorite wrestler. The dude is just an absolute beast, Samoan Werewolf. Just he's there. He's signed with WWE at the time of this recording. He's yet to debut, but when he does, Jacob Fatu will become a massive favorite of a lot of wrestling fans who maybe have not seen him before. And that's also another way where Fatu maybe changes the business, and the fact that he'll come in as part of the bloodline, a massive story, the biggest story in wrestling, one would say. But you come in as a part of that, having not worked with a company before and having not worked particularly for any major companies before, and that's no disrespect. His work in MLW was fantastic as the world champion there. He's done some great stuff for GCW, the House of Glory. Defy is another one he's done some stuff with. There was a brief cup of coffee, I think it was one match with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So this is somebody, it's not like when you bring in Tamatonga, say, who's had, I think it was 14 years in New Japan, made a name for himself there, or even to a lesser extent Tangaloa, or even Solo Sikoa, when he's been in your system in NXT and you're calling him up. No, this is somebody who has not worked for any of the major companies per se, and is going to come in straight away into a main event picture as part of the biggest story in professional wrestling. That's one way as well that will change the business, I think. And Fatu, he's just going to impress a lot of people. The things he can do for somebody of his size, the athleticism is just insane, and the intensity he brings, the brutality he brings, the snugness he brings, and just the intimidation factor. So I think that yes, there are a couple of ways there why I think Jacob Fatu will change the wrestling business, or at least fans' perceptions as well. Like I said, he will be a lot of people's new favorite wrestlers when people get to see what he can do, because yeah, and at 32 years of age, there's still so much left for the career of Jacob Fatu, and I for one very much look forward to seeing him doing amazing things and doing that big thing of like, yeah, well, I remember seeing him in MLW back in 2019. Where were you? Yeah, Fatu's going to be the man, and it's going to be great to see. So yes, fingers crossed for that. Or just watch this video by the time it gets published, and I'll have talked a load of nonsense and been proven totally wrong.